Thank you for joining us for this JMC Weekly webinar. It's January 8th, 2025, Best Practices for Data Entry in Iowa Non-Public Schools. Welcome. My name is Paul Freed. I am a trainer here at JMC. With JMC for about 20 years. I live in southeastern Minnesota in the headquarters city of Lake City, Minnesota. I'm joined by Jake Vanscoy.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Jake Vanscoy. I'm a trainer at JMC. I've been with JMC for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years or so now already. And I'm from the great state of Iowa, so I'm happy to be joining this webinar on best practices for Iowa non-public schools. So
great. All right, well, let's get this thing rolling. While Iowa non-public schools aren't bound by the same state reporting requirements as public schools, they still rely on quality data to connect seamlessly with tools like Panorama, FAST, and Iowa Achieve. Let's take a look at how a partnership with JMC ensures efficient data integration and reporting tailored to non-public schools' unique needs. Please hold all your questions until the Q&A session at the end of each section. If you do need to communicate with the host, feel free to use the Q&A chat feature in your webinar toolbar. Let's talk about working with students entering or leaving your school. This is critical to making sure that you have good data. Determining the correct procedure for student enrollment can be challenging due to various circumstances. We'll cover common situations for students joining or leaving your school, enabling you to manage enrollment confidently and ensuring accurate student information for school funding. By following the appropriate process, you can maintain precise student enrollment records. Let's talk about adding new students with the New Student Wizard. Now, this is something you want to do all throughout the year, not just to start the year, but anytime a new student comes. When a student is entering your district for the first time, the New Student Wizard guides you through the steps of entering a new student who has never attended your district, accurately entering them into the system. Let's take a live look at entering a new student with a New Student Wizard. Jake's going to take us through the live look. If you download these slides, you'll see there's a hyperlink on that previous screen that will take you through all these steps, but Jake's going to take you on the live look. So show us what to do, Jake.
absolutely. So before I take you on the live look, I'm going to click into our handy dandy widget down here, and I'm going to visit the Help Center here. And I'm going to pull up an article that we love here called Handling Students Entering or Leaving Your School. And this is, I like to refer to this as, this is just a great cheat sheet for anybody that might be handling enrollment within your school. So it goes through all of the scenarios, many of the scenarios that we're going to talk about here in this first part of the webinar here, for how do you go about handling students that are, say, entering your district for the first time, for example. And as Paul said, there's a link right to that New Student Wizard article right there. So, oh, okay, I use the New Student Wizard. Great. I've used that before. I know that all I need to do is go to file, edit, or I'm sorry, file and New Student Wizard, or I'm sorry, edit New Student Wizard. Or if I don't know exactly how that process works, I can click the hyperlink and it's going to take me right to that article that shows me exactly how to use the New Student Wizard. So with that said, I would invite you to bookmark that article, keep it on your desktop, print it out, do whatever you need to do. But this is really kind of the basis for understanding how to handle students, whether they're leaving, whether they're entering your school, whether they're re-entering your school after having attended already once during the year. So slightly different procedures for all of those things. So to use that New Student Wizard, I'm going to go to Edit New Student Wizard in JMC Office. Here I'm Edit New Student Wizard. It's going to give you a couple of options. And since this student is new to the district, I'm just going to keep that radio button right on New to the District, create my new student. Then I'm going to fill out, I mean, at a minimum, you need the last name, first name, gender, and grade level. So I'm just going to throw this in here to get to the next screen here, because this is step 1 in that New Student Wizard process. Step 2, and this is a critical step to make sure your enrollment records are correct. You'll want to go through everything on here on this screen that is normally the process for adding a student. So that would include selecting the day that they are joining your district, the entry code, and these entry codes are defined by the state. So you decide, why is the student entering? The entry type, same thing. the options are pretty self-explanatory in there, and each situation might be a little bit different. The big thing for Iowa non-public schools is that resident county. And you fill in that resident county. The state wants to know that, especially if students are using those ESSA funds or the is it the enrollment education savings account? There we go. Funds. A few other fields down here, and then you click that add button, and that will add the student to or add an enrollment record to your student. So
and Jake, go ahead. Yeah, choose a day there, because then that you have to choose a day to get that add button to show up there. So it's just select any day. It doesn't matter. There you go.
All right. Yeah, I would definitely be specific about which ones I'm picking up here. You know, if I have a student that's open enrolled in, for example, you know, this is a student that transferred from maybe another private school, for example. And then I click that add button, and that creates the student record with an enrollment record. And we're going to talk about that enrollment record here in just a little bit too. So anything to add there, Paul?
You can go back to the slides. I'll just add this one thing, Jake, is that this also is what helps calculate attendance correctly. Because if that kid comes after the first day of school, we need to know what day they start on, so their days present and absent, everything else go correctly there as well. So, all right, let's talk about oh God, sorry, Jake.
I was going to say several attendance processes.
Yes.
Iowa non-public schools are also bound to the truancy law, and also for your ESA funds, you'll need those accurate attendance records too. So that enrollment history is the first step in procuring those. So.
All right, re-enrolling students with the new student wizard. Enrolling a fifth-year senior. Using the new student wizard to enter a student who's returning fifth-year senior, the returning student option allows you to re-enroll students who previously graduated from 12th grade but are returning to complete additional credits to complete their graduation. The new student wizard can also be used to re-enter a student who attended your school in the prior year but was accidentally deleted from your JMC database. This allows you to restore the student's information without duplicating their profile. And lots of times, actually, Jake, you know, they're not accidentally deleted. As a 12th grader, they're rolled out, right? So sometimes you might accidentally delete them. That happens. But also, you know, this kid's a 12th year. When you move up to this next year, we're going to roll them out because 12th graders don't stay in there. So either of those situations are correct.
Absolutely. And I don't think I'll live look this one, but I think I'll just reiterate a couple things here. The main thing to know for this, and the reason for this returning students option here, is we don't want duplicates in the system. So if a student was already entered into the system at some point, you know, whether it be this year or last year or whenever, we don't want to create two records for that kid. So that's why you wouldn't use that new to district for any situation. That's why we have that returning student option. And as Paul pointed out, that works for any student that maybe attended your school and was accidentally deleted, or a fifth-year senior or returning 12th grader that was moved out of the system. So that's all I will add about that. No need for a live look. Not seeing any questions. So
great. Yeah, let's talk about enrolling returning students. So you'll use the add student feature to enroll a student who's left the district before the end of the prior school year and is returning for day one of the new school year here as well. So this is that add student feature. So you can use the re-enter student feature to enroll a student who attended at least one day of the current year, left, and is now returning to your school in the same school year. So what that means, if you go back one slide, Jake, right? Student was at your school last year, decided over the summer, you know, maybe moving to California, comes back on the 13th day of school or something like that. You still have to add them in, right? We go to that attendance student, add student. You see it there on the left-hand side. Yep. Because they're already in there. You don't need to use the new student wizard. You just got to go in and say, hey, here's this kid's back. Here's the day they came on. Fill out that information again. Now, if that student is at your school, leaves, and comes back during the same school year, we have the re-enter student feature here as well. It's not super common, but it does happen. The nice thing about this screen, and Jake is pointing right there to that attendance student, re-enter student, is that you'll only see on this particular screen one student that's listed. We're only going to list students who were at your school, left your school during the same school year, and now might be coming back for the same school year. So if you went out to your database today you might not see anybody in there because there's nobody maybe who left your school, but it's only people who left during the school year. So that's why we have these directions there to help remind you as you walk through the process.
Yeah, and let's take a live look at
Yeah.
enrolling returning students here. And as Paul mentioned, and I'm just going to point out even further. So, the key to this is kind of knowing the situation for the student and, whether or not the student left over the summer or whether they attended your school during the school year and are in fact coming back. They've left and now they're coming back. And the reason for this, I've got my add student feature. This is for a kid that left over the summer. I can find these students that may have left. I've exited them. I can add them back on any day after that first day of school. So this is my first day of school. Maybe they came back the 22nd or whatever. I can add them along with the proper entry codes and all of that. The re-enter student is the important piece for this, and the reason we have this separately is because this student has already attended this school once. So there are attendance records that are tied to that student. So they started the first day of school and maybe they attended the first 10 days. Well, then they left. Now there was a 20-day span where they're gone and now they're back. Well, we still need those attendance records from the first day through the 10th day, and we need to combine those attendance records. So that's the reason for the slightly different process. Again, if you read through this article, this goes through each scenario as to, what happens if a kid's a 12th grade student, but requires, they need to come back to complete graduation, or this student attended my district in a prior year and they're now returning for this school year. Or, maybe I accidentally deleted a student. How do I get them back? Or potentially I had a student attend during the current school year. They left for a period of time and now they're returning. So this sheet actually is your cheat sheet to help you know which process you should be following. So, Paul, anything to add?
The only thing I'll add, and this is just a general rule, is if a student comes to your school or leaves your school, you can't just add them in. You need to tell us what day they came on or what day they left on. That's if you take that one rule and know that we've got directions there to help you, you're good to go.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about dropping students who leave during the school year. To withdraw a student who's attended for at least one day of school in the current academic year, use the drop student feature in JMC Office. Dropping a student maintains essential demographic and enrollment records crucial for state reporting and internal record keeping while removing the student from active status. That's on the attendance student, drop student on the left-hand side there. Jake, you want to take a quick live look? This is a pretty easy one.
Yeah, this is, and I think the only thing that I would reiterate about this is, I think some folks might have the tendency just to go to the view student data page and uncheck these boxes, and say like, oh, this student's no longer active. So, they left. So I just make them inactive and now they don't show up in certain places. And we want to caution people away from that because that does not complete the enrollment record for the student. So you have a student with a span of enrollment. And again, a lot of these processes, including, FAST and Panorama and Iowa Achieve and the ESA, all of those processes rely on accurate enrollment records. So, if we have a student that leaves during the school year, we still need to maintain those records, and we need to actually put a cap on those records. So I'm going to go to attendance, student, drop student, and again, follow the process. My active students are listed here. You might see a few students that have stars next to them. Those are inactive students. You select the day that they're gone. Why are they leaving? They're exiting your school because they're transferring out of the district. The destination code, there are a few different destination codes that you can choose from. The receiving educational services, if that student has an IEP or a special education plan, this will be, you'll be able to select something here. And then the drop button actually does all of the unchecking of the boxes on the view student data page for you. So there will be no need to go to this view student data page and uncheck any of these boxes. That's done through the process of attendance, student, drop student. Paul, anything to add?
Nope. Keep on rolling.
Ready.
Removing a student who left over the summer. Use the drop student feature to remove a student who's completed the previous school year, has left your school year over the summer, and is not returning for the upcoming school year. Select day 0 to indicate the student dropped prior to the start of the school year. This is that same screen, attendance student, drop student. If a student's leaving your school, it's always attendance student, drop student. The real message here is, and Jake, I don't even know if you need to show a live look, is that you choose 0 prior to the school year. And that again ensures accurate state reporting.
Absolutely.
Yep,
And
I think that one's so straightforward. So deleting a student from your JMC database. This is one of my most unfavorite things because I don't typically recommend people delete, but you can do it. In a situation where you've added a student by mistake or add a student for demonstration purposes, you would remove the student who has never enrolled in your school by using the delete a student feature to erase the student's data completely from your JMC site. And again, that's for if the student was never enrolled in your school especially for the current school year. Deleting a student should only be done in cases where the student's records are not supposed to exist, as it permanently removes all associated data. And just to be clear, it's for that current school year. So Jake, why don't you go out there, the only time I really recommend this is if you've accidentally entered a student twice, that was in there. If you put a demo student in, or if a student maybe came as a kindergartner and here, you're a K-12 building in Iowa and let's like, all right, this kid's been gone 10 years. They're not coming back. You could delete them in your 25, 26 database because when they were in your school in, 2011, 2012, they're not going to be in there anymore. And so that would be another reason you could do it, but you don't have to do it. That's the thing, because when you're on that, if you could actually go to the view student data screen first for just 1 second here, I think one thing that happens is people under the grade level there, they don't have all active chosen in the top left there, Jake, right?
yeah.
They have all students, right? When you see all, which is the third one down, you're going to see all your active and inactive kids. And then people say, well, I see all these kids who are not here anymore. Well, I don't typically want you to be in all. We want to be in all active. That's where you should be 99% of the time. And that kind of eliminates that. But if you do want to delete somebody, Jake, you show them how to do it.
Absolutely. We're going to head to edit, delete a student. And, just to kind of plug a utility that I'm not sure everybody uses. You can, let's just say you want to see what's going to happen with the student record at some point. You want to maybe create a test student so you can log into the JMC student portal, or, you can absolutely create a student just for testing purposes, and then come back and use this edit, delete a student to erase that record completely. So those are really the only utilities I would ever see this delete a student used for. If the student was entered by mistake, like if we have duplicate entries for a student, or if you've added a student for testing purposes. So, and it's super easy, but it's super rare. So you come in here, you grab your student, you click the delete button, and that wipes out their record entirely. You would never use this if you have a kid that was in your school, they were here for 3 weeks and then they moved out. You would never use the edit, delete a student for that situation. That's where the drop student comes in.
All right, what do we got next here, Jake?
Next, if there aren't any questions, and I'm not seeing any questions,
No.
we're moving into those data quality issues.
Great. The school's interoperability framework, SIF, as it's always called, agent, allows schools to submit data from JMC Office directly to the Iowa Department of Education. And the SIF validation page provides a clear picture of all data that is sent. Identify errors on the SIF validation page and update your data as needed to ensure the smooth flow of data to the Panorama Student Success Portal, FAST assessment system, Iowa Chief Special Education Data System, and other portals associated with Iowa State reporting. Now, people might be like, what are you talking about here? Most private schools are going to know that there's a SIF connection between the state and your database. That's how the state collects data, but they might not know much because JMC sets up that SIF connection. Isn't that right, Jake?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So we do it for you. So you might not know much about, but still good to know about this page.
I think the big thing to note here is, especially many administrators and teachers are, worried about this FAST assessment connection. So you've got Panorama, which collects certain data elements from your school, and it provides a dashboard to allow administrators to look at things like discipline records and attendance records. And then you've got FAST as an assessment system that your teachers and administrators might look at math data or reading data in comparison with state assessments. And you have the Iowa Achieve Special Education Portal. So you've got all of these portals that the state provides, and JMC provides that integration to allow you to send your information from JMC to these portals, so then you can use the functions of these portals. The big thing with this is if you do not have quality data using mostly the processes that we just talked about, you know, enrolling a student, entering a student correctly, dropping a student correctly, then students might not show up in those various portals. So if you're a teacher comes to the office, for example, and says, "Hey, I'm not seeing my student in my FAST roster. What's going on?" The SIF validations page is a page that will allow you to detect any errors that might be happening that would prevent your teachers from being able to see their students on those FAST rosters, for example.
All right, in JMC Office, head to File, SIF Validations to view information sent from your school to the state of Iowa via SIF. The record type column on the SIF validations report displays the name of invalid data in JMC Office to help you identify the problem that is preventing the SIF agent from sending information from your school site to the IDE, which is Iowa Department of Education, or Panorama Student Success Portal. A typical message in the record type column will look like course_section_teacher missing, indicating that a course does not have a teacher listed on the sections tab of the edit course data page. And what we're really saying there is just, you know, it looks like gibberish a little bit coming from the state, but if you look at it, lots of times you can figure out what they're trying to say.
So yeah, I'll just kind of help folks along with this. And this, by the way, if you're ever working with JMC tech support, this is probably the first thing that we're going to look at in helping detect these errors. You know, as Paul mentioned, this record type, and this is something that you could probably even diagnose yourself once you know how to find the report and read it. But as he mentioned, all right, record type, what's going on here? Course section unsupported grading scheme. Okay, well, if I know anything about scheduling, I know that each course has a grading scheme. I can continue reading on here, and it's actually 109 that is the issue. I could go to my schedules course, edit course data page, find course 109, check out the grading scheme, and most of the time it's because a grading scheme doesn't exist, for example. I'm not going to be able to show any live looks of any of this data, but it's more important that you know these pages exist and know a little bit about how to read these errors.
The natural key column on the SIF validations report displays the specific elements within a record type that are contributing to data errors to help you narrow down why the error is occurring. Typical elements displayed will include course names, course ID numbers, section numbers, and student ID numbers to indicate the specific fields you need to update in order to fix errors associated with SRI reporting or Panorama Student Success Portal data exchanges.
So you can see in this course ID, I've got the course 109, and it lists 148 sections, and all of these would be the section numbers that would be alongside those courses. And now for this example, I would bet course 109 is something like a study hall, for example, where I have a bunch of different sections that might not have a grading scheme.
The comment column on the SIF validations report displays additional information to help you find and fix errors on in your student or course data. Typical comments will include pathways such as JMC, Office, Schedules, Edit Course Data, Sections, Period, Empty to help you find the correct page within JMC Office to fix errors that are preventing the free flow of data.
And this is probably what you're going to find the most helpful, because it is telling you literally, or attempting to tell you literally, where to go to Schedules, Edit Course Data, find that grading scheme, and add a grading scheme, because this is empty. So that actually gives you the pathway to help you correct the thing that's wrong. So the only live look that I'm going to show you here is where to find this, because a lot of folks don't even know this exists. So I'm going to head back to the building level. I'm going to go to File, and there's actually two pages. There's the SIF events page, and then there's the SIF validations page. The CIF events page, you probably won't use this very often. This just shows you all of the data that's being sent on a daily basis to FAST and to Panorama and to Achieve and those different places. The CIF validations page is actually showing you any data that has any errors that's associated with it. So if you go to this page and you see no record found, you're probably in pretty good shape. If you go to this page and you see a whole list of records found, you might, that would be an indication that you've got something wrong in some of the data in your school. And it could be student data, it could be course data. Any of that sort of stuff should show up on this CIF validations page. Odds are you're probably not going to come here until you have a teacher that comes into your room and says, hey, none of my students are showing up in FAST. That's usually when folks reach out to our tech support and say, hey, why aren't our students showing up in FAST? We very well might point you back to this resource and say, hey, check out the CIF events or CIF validations page and see if you can diagnose this area yourself. Or we might have to point you on to the state of Iowa as well. And Connor Hood does a great job working with our schools to help them make that connection through our CIF agent.
Great. All right, I don't see any questions. I think it's pretty straightforward. So tracking student education savings account information. Keep track of qualified non-public students eligible for Iowa's Education Savings Account, ESA program with JMC. Easily maintain attendance and enrollment records, designate students receiving ESA funds, and generate a CSV file for seamless upload to the IDE's website, ensuring accurate reporting for all ESA eligible students. And I will tell you, I've received a lot of feedback from our private schools. This is an awesome feature. The Iowa Department of Education reviews student enrollment records before distributing ESA funds, and schools can easily generate an enrollment history record, complete with essential details by adding students using the new Student Wizard. New Student Wizard simplifies student enrollment using the new Student Wizard, which guides you through the entering the vital information. We already talked about this. Use the new Student Wizard to put a new student in.
That's the key to that is this gives you all of that information that the school that the state's looking for. So without the tool that we have available here are the spreadsheet that you can download with all of the enrollment information in JMC, you would have to download the state's spreadsheet, and you would have to go in and fill in each of these individual fields for the students that qualify for receiving ESA funds. We've made it easy, and as long as you maintain accurate enrollment records using things like the new Student Wizard, you'll easily be able to download that exact same spreadsheet and share it with the state. It literally will save you hours and hours.
Great. And then maintaining precise attendance records in JMC provides the IDE with evidence of students receiving ESA funds attending your school. Simply record daily attendance using the attendance or period attendance modules to ensure accurate reporting. We've got the attendance AM, PM. The attendance AM, PM student attendance records can be managed directly through the attendance module in JMC Office. Very uncommon for people to do this. You can, but the vast majority use period attendance. Share the responsibility of collecting attendance information among teachers and office staff by configuring period attendance to convert period attendance absences to AM, PM attendance. Most, if not all, private schools in Iowa should be using period attendance. If you have questions about this, reach out to a JMC trainer. Designate students as ESA fund recipients on the View Student Data page by automatically incorporating their enrollment and attendance information into the ESA student eligibility file. First item here, go to the State Reporting tab. The State Report tab on the View Student Data page includes an ESA funded checkbox for marking students as receiving ESA funds. Easy peasy. The Iowa Department of Ed is requesting a CSV file from Iowa's non-public schools, which educates students receiving ESA funds to support accurate fund distribution. JMC has streamlined this process by gathering all necessary data and formatted it into a CSV file, simplifying reporting to the state. Now we're going to check for errors for that CSV file. The error summary report clearly lists students along with any data missing from the file that might prevent a seamless data share. Easily print a summary, fix any errors, and let JMC continue checking for errors until the report contains all the necessary information. Then you'll export that CSV file. Once you are error-free, you can export a formatted CSV file to your computer with a simple click, ready for uploading it to the Iowa Department of Education site. Jake,
So
did you want to take a live look at this?
yeah, absolutely. Let's take a live look at a few of these data elements. And I know many Iowa non-public schools are receiving, if not all Iowa non-public schools are receiving these funds. And the first thing that I would say is we have a full webinar on the ESAs and how to set this up. It's very simple, especially if you're following your student enrollment, the add drop forms and things like that. And I'm just going to show you a few of the highlights that we just talked about here. So we mentioned the new student wizard. As long as we have students that are entered into the system correctly, they have enrollment records. And the one piece on this view student data page that's vital is if I go to the state report tab, which is all the way over here to the right. Actually, I'll maximize my screen so you can see it a little bit easier here. The state report tab over here for each student has an ESSA funded checkbox right down here. So if your students are receiving those ESSA funds, you place a check mark in this checkbox, you click save, and that marks that student as receiving those funds. It's also going to allow the state, or it's going to include this enrollment information in the CSV file that you're going to create. One of the additional elements that the state wants to receive would be attendance. So in addition to, when did the student enter your school? Why did they enter your school? Where are they coming from? The resident county, the resident district, all of that sort of stuff. That the state wants to see that. They also want to see student attendance records. So, as long as you're taking attendance regularly through probably the period attendance module, as long as you have attendance records, then the state's going to get the information that they need. And the big thing for this is under the Iowa item here, and it's the export ESA student eligibility file. And as Paul pointed out, we have a couple different capture dates. I think the state requires you October 1st, but then they also, I think they have a capture date sometime in January. So right around the corner here, they're going to want to know what students are receiving ESSA funds from your school and whether or not they've been enrolled and if they're actually going to school. So you can come to this, you grab your capture date. So I'm going to go to, maybe it's January 1st, let's just say, or January 2nd. I'm not sure if it is, but I'm going to check errors. It's going to list students that have any data quality errors. So for example, Allison here, this first student, she's got a missing state ID, no resident county specified, ethnicity not specified, race not specified. And all of this usually would come in through those adding student processes. But, for Allison, I'm going to just go back to find Allison here. And what are the elements that we need? And this is handy because I can print this sheet off right here. So I can have it right next to me and say, all right, student ID missing. Well, let's give her a student ID or a state ID. So Allison gets a state ID. You definitely don't want to make one up. I will for this purpose. I click save. What else are we missing here? Resident county. Okay, I must have forgot to put the resident county. That's an enrollment record. So I can come in here and, oh, sure enough, resident county, there isn't one listed. I can click edit. I can add a resident county. It's by number. I might have to check and see what county number I have. What else is missing? Okay, I've got ethnicity information missing. I can go to my race ethnicity tab. I can mark the student, the proper ethnicity, whatever it might be. I click save. And now if I return to this page and I rerun that check errors, now Allison is gone. And, for all of these students here, and it's really, it's 4 students with, multiple errors, I can go in and fix those. And once I fix those errors, I create my CSV file, send it to the state or turn it into the state on the state site, and I'm done. So this process, I've talked to schools that do not have that do not use JMC, that do not have this process. It literally takes them hours to mark their students as receiving ESSA funds. JMC, as long as you're following those proper enrollment procedures, it literally takes you minutes.
Great.
Anything to add about that, Paul, or
Oh,
any?
you nailed it.
Right.
All right, JMC news and upcoming events. Let's wrap this one up, Jake. Next week, we got getting ready for 25-26 to order your JMC software for next year. The fourth week of January, JMC Family Feedbackers. Give us some feedback on what you'd like to see in the JMC Family Portal. Then on 1/29, that fifth week of January, the right software and customer care for your district. That's just a kind of a high level view of what JMC offers schools. And then we've got that Splash Innovation Showcase for new family enrollment. We're going to show off that new family enrollment portal that first week of February. The client, are you fluent in JMC? Become a CSS. That's a client service specialist, the perfect part-time gig if you'd like to help shape our innovations and provide one-to-one care for JMC customers just like yourself. Please review the full job description before sending your resume and cover letter to HR@jmcinc.com. It's a great gig for folks that want to stay connected to education. All right, it's move up season. JMC is here to tackle one of your biggest end of year to-dos, moving your data and students up a grade level. But first, we'll need a few details from you via our move up form in the instructions provided. Prefer a virtual walkthrough? Then join this training session. That's that webinar next week. The step-by-step on filling out the move up form, including a little window shopping to ensure your JMC toolkit is set for success. Are you headed to the MESPA Institute 2025 in Minnesota on 2/5? Probably not if you're an Iowa private school. How about the Middle School High School Principals Convention in Wisconsin? Let's catch up. We'll have team members stationed at both conferences who'd love to chat with you one-on-one. If you have specifics you'd like to discuss during your one-on-one session, please give us a heads up at sales@jmcinc.com. And a little sneak peek at our new e-commerce portal. The JMC development team has been hard at work building the general store to help you sell school merch, provide tickets for community ed classes plus events, and manage fundraising. While we can't share the entire experience with you just yet, you can tour the portal from the shopper's perspective. It's gonna be really sweet. And on behalf of myself and Jake Van Scoy, the entire training team, thanks for your time today, and thank you for choosing JMC.